Usually the first speaker is the guinea pig. How many of you have watched the latest Avatar film? It's great. There's a moment in the film where Jake looks at the colonel and says, "You've got new eyes, Colonel. All you got to do is open them." He's not talking about sight. He's talking about choosing to notice. Because you don't need new eyes to understand the world around you. You already have them. And based on that context, here's what's happening as we are all sitting here in this wonderful theater. Every 3 seconds around the world, a bird dies from electrocution. That's roughly 10 million birds a year. 10 million every 3 seconds. I'm a raptor biologist. I've spent my entire life around birds of prey, from eagles that can spot a rabbit from up to 2 kilometers away, falcons that can dive at incredible speeds of up to 240 miles per hour, hawks, kites, owls, vultures. Well, vultures is kind of where I start to lose people. I've worked in the Central American rainforests, in the African savanna, on the vast Mongolian steppe, and high up in the mountains in the Himalayas, in places where the nearest hospital is a day away. And as far as a cell phone network is concerned, that is just a rumor. And after all that, this is what I've come to believe, that birds of prey are more than just birds. They are messengers, not just canaries in a coal mine, but a sign that's written across the sky. When they fall, it's the world telling us to open our eyes. They show us what is broken in our relationship with nature. But they also show us what is possible when we choose to act. When I tell people that I'm a raptor biologist, usually one of two things happens. Either I'm suddenly the most interesting person in the room, or I find myself standing all by myself in the corner at the snack table. Birds of prey have that effect on people. So let me start with a confession. The very first time I said I loved vultures, people looked at me like I'd completely lost my mind. Well, let's face it, vultures are not pretty, they're not fluffy, they don't sing, and they'll never make it on children's lunchboxes, usually associated with corrupt politicians. But in the wild, vultures are extraordinary. They prevent outbreaks. They quietly do a job that if we had to do ourselves would cost billions of dollars. And what happens when vultures disappear? The consequences are catastrophic. In the mid-1990s, vulture populations declined by as much as 99% in countries like India, Nepal, and Pakistan. They were dying because they were feeding on livestock carcasses that was contaminated with a lethal veterinary drug. And so what happened when the vultures disappeared? The number of feral dogs exploded. The number of rabies cases went through the roof. And people not only suffered, but hundreds of thousands died. And that is what happens when you stop noticing the quiet workers that do the work for you, that hold our planet together, that hold humanity together. And that is what I mean when I say we must open our eyes. For most of human history, we have never feared these birds. In fact, we have revered them. For most Native Americans, the bald eagle is sacred. It is a messenger to the Creator, a symbol of responsibility. Amongst the Kazakh hunters, the golden eagle is heritage. It is a bond between rider and bird that is passed down through generations. In the deserts of Arabia, the falcon is a lifeline, providing food and sustenance for Bedouin families and helping to shape an ancient falconry heritage that still endures today. Amongst the Embera people of the Darien forest, the harpy eagle carries the spirit of the forest itself. And high up in the Tibetan plateau, families offer their loved ones back to the mountains, back to the winds, and back to the birds. It's not about death, it's about return. And this reverence for raptors goes back even further. Nearly 40,000 years ago, an early human sat on a mountain and carved a flute from the wing bone of a griffon vulture. So if you think about it, the very first musical notes didn't begin in silence. They began with wings. And when we lose this reverence for raptors, they don't just decline, they disappear. And what vanishes is not just a species, but it is an ecosystem service that holds our world together. A presence in the sky that once told our ancestors, the land is alive. Open your eyes. We're all familiar with what extinctions look like. The great auk, gone. The dodo bird, gone. The passenger pigeon, gone. The Haast eagle of New Zealand, gone. The Guadalupe caracara of Mexico, gone. And gone means forever. Because extinction is quiet and extinction is permanent. So when a bird dies on a wire, this is not just a statistic for a biologist. It is a messenger that we have cut down, a lineage that has been interrupted, and a story that we have ended in mid-air. And we barely notice. Why? Because we have our eyes shut, and we need to open them. But there are people around the world that have opened their eyes, and they refuse to look away. These are field biologists, engineers, rangers, community leaders, even philanthropists, falconers, and even students, like some of you seated here in this room. These are quiet champions that do the work quietly and make sure that raptors continue to thrive and soar. And I'm very grateful to serve alongside these champions through the Mohammed bin Zayed Raptor Conservation Fund, where our vision is very simple, that conservation should be practical, it should be scalable, and it should be rooted with respect for both people and nature. Now let me take you on a journey across the Mongolian steppes. Empty, endless, a flat ocean of grass that stretches to the end of the world. And sometimes, when you're standing there, it's like the heavens have played a cosmic joke on you. Because for a place that is so vast, so eternal, unshakable, it's hard to believe that a simple power pole can bring down one of the fastest, fiercest hunters on Earth. My colleagues and I have seen this time and time again as we're doing our work. You drive along the power lines, you stop, you see a shadow beneath the pole. You get out of the car, you walk towards it, your chest tightens. And there, beneath the pole, is the most beautiful creature you have ever seen. Wings widespread, forever still, dead. That bird is a Sacre falcon, a master of wind and speed, and revered for centuries, killed not by nature, not by predators, but by infrastructure. And as you're doing the work, over time, you become numb. You develop some sort of emotional discipline. Because if you let that bother you, then you will not be able to do the work. So you record the pole type, you mark a GPS point, you take a photo, you move on. For a bird of prey, like a falcon, a power pole is almost exactly like a tree. It is a safe place for a bird to perch and look for prey. But as it sits on the power pole, one wrong wing move and the circuit closes. And the bird is executed. Every year in Mongolia, 18,000 raptors were dying this way, needlessly, in silence. 18,000, of which 4,000 were Seka falcons. But what if I told you we were able to turn the tide? With support from Emirati reverence for falconry, we began one of the most ambitious conservation programs in history, working with engineers and herder communities and the government of Mongolia. We installed 5,000 artificial nests across the Mongolian steppe. Those 5,000 artificial nests produced 30,000 Seka falcons in the wild. 30,000. And then we turned to the power poles. We insulated 27,000 poles, covering 80% of Mongolia's landscape. That's over 3,000 kilometers. The result? We were able to cut mortality and electrocution by 95%. That is transformative. What gives this hope is that this is not expensive. It's very simple to fix. And once you scale it up, that the impact is limitless. We didn't redesign the grid. We didn't slow down electricity. What we did is insulate the dangerous parts. We turned off the kill switch. And that saved all these birds in Mongolia. So before I finish, I want to leave you with a message of hope. Because hope, when grounded in action, is one of the most powerful forces that we have. You've already seen that our work in Mongolia saves 18,000 raptors every year from needless death, birds that were dying silently. Right here, over Oxford and the Chilterns, red kites are living proof that recovery is possible, with nearly 4,500 breeding pairs now soaring across Great Britain. On the tiny island of Mauritius, the Mauritius kestrel was reduced to just 4 known individuals. 4. Today, there are hundreds that are flying free on that tiny island. In North America, the California condor is the largest flying bird with a 3-meter wingspan. In 1987, they were down to just 22 individuals. 22. Today, because organizations and people open their eyes, there are more than 600 birds, of which more than half are flying free in the wild. And in India, Nepal, and Pakistan, the vultures are starting to come back because these countries recognize the problem, banned the lethal veterinary drug, and committed to recovery. Different species, different continents, different cultures, but the same pattern. In all these stories, people did 2 things. They opened their eyes and refused to believe that extinction was inevitable. And secondly, they chose limitless hope that was grounded in scientific evidence and action. But let me be clear, our work is far from over. Already, since I began this talk, more birds have died from electrocution. And globally, 1 out of 5 birds, 1 out of 5 raptors across the globe is threatened with extinction. But you have seen what can happen when people open their eyes. In the 60s and 70s, the peregrine falcon was almost wiped out by DDT. But then organizations such as the Peregrine Fund, under the leadership of the late Professor Tom Cade, they acted. Laws changed, policies changed, and the bird, which is the fastest bird on the planet, from which fighter jets were designed, came back. In 1998, the peregrine falcon was taken off the endangered species list. That is the world we should insist on. And from these stories, if there's something I want you to take back, it is this: that our limits are not in nature. Our limits are in our ability to see, if we open our eyes, our ability to fix, and our ability to scale. Because if we open our eyes and help others open theirs, then the possibilities are not small, they're not fragile, they are limitless. Thank you.